Let's go.
Like the sound of stuff. Yeah. That's right.
And we smoked it all again.
Okay, you are now listening to the Poptimist podcast. This is Taylor Berryman, and today my guest is electronic music producer Derek Connor. How's it going, Derek?
Good, man. Like my second day in Nashville, so pretty excited for the future.
Yeah. So you just moved to Nashville from Alabama?
That's right. That's where I went to school. Got my degree in music business. And then I literally turned in my last assignment last weekend. Finished out my internship, and then just moved here. So jumping straight into
Congratulations,
it.
yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm super excited for it.
That's the only way I think to do it, is just to go for it. Like one theme that I've been talking about kind of on the show with all different kinds of musicians and people, creative people, is that you really just have to fucking go for it. You can't wait. You can't wait for the right time. There are a bunch of musicians out there who are living, I don't know, and probably even people you went to school with who are like, oh, I'm just going to wait until I do this or I have this done and then I'm going to do it. But you never get that thing done and you never make that move.
Right. Well, you can fail at what you don't want to do, so you might as well just go for it, right?
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. So I can tell that you already have like a pretty positive outlook and kind of a work ethic. Where would you say that came from? How was that instilled in you? Where'd you learn it from?
That's a good question. Well, I guess I don't know, even though my parents have supported me a lot, they haven't really been like holding my hand through it. They've been letting me work for it and stuff. And so I've realized that any of the progress that I've ever made with musical stuff is just because I've worked for it,
Yeah.
There's, like, with success nowadays, when you see successful people, you just see their success and you see them thriving in it, but you don't see how much actual
You don't see the
work.
fucking struggle when you're down in the trenches.
Right, exactly. And so I think that's what a lot of musicians and people that want to be successful think, is that all I have to do is be in the right place, the right time, and know these people.
It's a lie.
You gotta be good at what you do too. So it is a little bit about being at the right place, the right time, knowing the right people. But if you don't have anything of value at that time, then what use is it?
I would also add to that, if you're not constantly trying to put yourself in those positions, like you have to always be working. There's no real downtime in what we do. You have to be out there and present, and that's how you do it. Like, nothing good ever happens if you're just constantly sitting on the couch at home, just hanging out and doing nothing.
Right, exactly.
You have to be out there going to get it.
Right, exactly. And that's what I kind of like about Nashville, is that there's always something going on, like a networking event, a seminar, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go out every night, meet people. I mean, I only have about 4 or 5 friends here, so I'm just going to go out, meet people, try to talk to as many people as possible, see what happens.
That's smart. You definitely have a business sense to you, which a lot of the people that move here, I think they just think it's fucking magic.
Right.
Whenever it happens, it's just like the sky opens up and suddenly the universe picks you.
Yeah, well, everyone in Nashville is a musician, so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, I don't know, I'm a big fan of just the idea of work and grind and don't give up.
It sucks sometimes.
It does. Do you ever want to quit?
Oh yeah, of course. It's just like, I don't know, recently my music had been really sample based, and then I was like, well, if I want to really get anywhere, I can't really be sampling all the time, because then if a song ever gets,
you gotta
popular,
pay it out.
Yeah. They'll either sue you gotta pay, or they'll just take the song down. And usually they'll just take the song down. You know what I mean? And so I was like, well, so I had to start kind of almost rebuilding my sound a little bit to get more, I guess, original. I mean, sampling in itself is original because you're creating a new arrangement, but it's the fact that you're using someone else's work is where the lost stuff gets in. And then you can get people taken down. Like one of my most popular songs, Fly, I think it has 140,000 plays. And it samples like the Windows 95 opening, like boom, boom, really ambient. I put some reverb on and stuff, and I put a clip from a 36 Mafia song on top of it. So like, not like super well-known samples, but you'll be able to pick it out if you've heard either of them like twice. So and now I'm just sitting around like, man, if it gets any more popular, it might be taken down. So, but now when I create stuff without samples, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can send it to YouTube channels and stuff like that, because like whenever you send stuff to like blogs, YouTube channels or stuff, they're like, we do not accept works that have been sampled or use copyright sample stuff. It's like, it's creative, but there just needs to be an easier way, I think, for people that sample to be able to use it legally.
So how does that? I know nothing about the sampling process. I'm like a fan of hip hop and music and everything like that, and they do a lot of sampling in hip hop. But I have no idea how you even clear a sample.
Oh, it's next to impossible. It's easier to do a cover of a song note by note, word by word, than it is to sample like 1 second, half a second of a song. It's ridiculous. You gotta talk, the people that own the composition of it.
Of course you fucking do.
And then you gotta talk to the people that own the recording of it. So you're gonna be talking to the songwriter, the record label, the artist, all this stuff, blah blah blah. You're gonna be jumping through so many hoops, and you're gonna have to pay a ton of money. So basically, the songs that you hear that are sampled in like pop culture, they're usually supported by like major labels that have a lot of money to throw that way. And because most of the time, when a song samples and it gets big and they don't clear it, you'll see someone suing them for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it was kind of like what happened with Uptown Funk. I don't know if you followed any of that at all, but
yeah, that wasn't really sampling, and I don't think they were really in the right for suing them, because like with that, they were suing off like the vibe of the song, like it copied like the Marvin Gaye style. But back when Marvin Gaye made that song, like there were so many people making that same type of music.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of BS to me. But yeah, sampling, really tough. I wish there was some way to make a business to where you could, like, if you got a deal with major labels, they could put up songs on this. You could highlight a certain part of that song, you know what I mean, that you would sample, and then it would just like you could just add it to your cart, and you'd have like that sample. And then
I think you just made $1 million.
I don't want to do it. I'm trying to make music, but it'd be really hard to implement, because getting, all 3 major labels pretty much to do it.
And they're all fucking corrupt and crooked too.
Oh yeah, they're all crooked, for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's the one thing I think, since moving to Nashville, is really I knew that the music industry was corrupt, and I knew I didn't really like any of the business people in it, because they're morally bankrupt. Not only are they morally bankrupt, most of them are also creatively bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
And they think they have a lot of great ideas, but really what they do is they just want to do stuff that's safe, that they think is going to sell, which some of it does. But there's this new hunger, I think, that kind of exists now, and it's kind of started, I think, here in Nashville in some ways over the past couple of years, where people are really hungering for genuine, real music again.
Right.
Like artists that are actually trying to say something or have meaning.
Right.
I think that's a big reason why hip hop is so huge, and why it's such a still in some ways still like a counterculture. Is because they're actually saying something. As far as Nashville goes, I think there are artists like Dan Auerbach and the Black Keys who are kind of genuine and real. Jack White.
Well, it's kind of interesting now that excuse me, like indie music now is like really popular, but it got the name indie because it was independent and weird.
Yeah.
But now people are kind of flocking to that more because it's less.
It's a major label genre
prescription
now.
almost.
Yeah.
Because now with like popular music, like top 40 radio, you got like 30 writers on one song, 10 producers.
And nobody's making any fucking money.
Oh yeah, when you split it up that much, no one's making any money.
Yeah.
But they're turning it into so much of a science, and although it is, I would say most top 40 music is appealing to most of the general public, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, even I listen to some top 40, but people don't like the how it's so like prescribed, you know what I mean? It's just like a Max Martin song, you're like, like a Taylor Swift single, you know exactly how it's going to be the entire time. And as with most top 40 songs, you know exactly how it's going to be. But at the same time, almost every popular music for the past 4 decades, it's always followed a trend. So you look in the 2000s, you got kind of R&B influences on you got boy bands and stuff. You got 90s, it's kind of like the grungy stuff, Nirvana. And then 80s, you got the synth pop kind of gay 80s bands, stuff like that. They all kind of followed trends, and so I think that it's just gonna, I don't know. I have faith in the music industry. It's just, I think it's going to go back to that more raw sound.
I would agree with that. I think it is very trend based, but I think the trends start from indie artists most of the time. It's going to be someone, who just right now, like nowadays, it's just some person in their apartment making music. And they're gonna put up a song, and then fucking someone is gonna show it to Rihanna, and then Rihanna's gonna be like, "Well, I want to do something like that."
Right.
Like that. That's how things go today, and I think
that's go ahead, sorry.
No.
That's how popular music has always been. Because when rock and roll got invented, rock and roll stemmed from blues, soul, black artists that really didn't have much commercial viability to them because they're black, and so the white executives saw the black people making this really awesome soulsy, bluesy kind of,
and then
rock and roll.
More.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, how can we commercialize this more? And so they created rock and roll. And so you have Beatles, Rolling Stones, all that stuff. But it was really a short-lived kind of a thing. Rock and roll was. But it's legendary. You know? So it's always stemmed from the underground pop culture stuff, and now we're seeing. I think now we're kind of seeing in pop music, it's like a marriage of contemporary pop and like electronic music now, or contemporary pop and hip hop, because electronic music is way on the rise, and I think hip hop's getting close to its peak. Honestly, I think in like 5-10 years, it's not going to be as on the radio as much anymore.
I would agree with that. I think there are some artists that are let me say this. Do you know Flatbush Zombies? Have you ever listened to them before?
I've heard that name, and I've probably heard a song from them.
Yeah, they're a hip hop group, and their whole thing is that basically that like hip hop is dead. So I just think they're very interesting. Like they talk about a bunch of like psychedelic shit too, and like talk about taking acid and looking into your third eye and really finding who you are.
Okay,
like a lot of cool trippy stuff.
Right.
But they also have this idea, like they're very postmodern in a way, the way that they kind of they talk about hip hop. And I just think it's very interesting. But if you like electronic music and stuff like that, some of their music is sample based. But the producer, Eric Ark Elliott, dude, he might be like the greatest of like the hip hop producers right now. Like I would put him in the same class as Dr. Dre and like all the legendary guys.
I'm gonna check it out.
He's super fucking gifted. And plus, they have something to say. I really feel like they're a response to what's going on. Is that hunger for genuine?
Right.
Like they're very genuine in what they're doing. They're fucking real.
Mm-hmm.
But there's someone that I really like. You would probably like them too.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out. For
Yeah,
sure.
you would dig their sound. So, when did you start playing music?
Let's see. I guess in 5th grade, I got my first drum set. It was a first act kit, super tiny, real cruddy. Oh yeah. But freaking loved it.
Yeah.
And I played that for several years, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I got into playing drums by watching the movie Drumline. Nick Cannon.
Oh yeah.
Historic Black College marching bands. Like,
wasn't Sam Jackson in that? Samuel Jackson?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I know. Nick Cannon was, but it's been so long since I've seen that movie. But I think that's what got me into playing drums, and so started playing drums. Joined the band in middle school. Played like glockenspiel, bell set, concert snare drum, real lame stuff, and but it was a start into music, and then towards the end of middle school, early high school, I started getting into a bunch of bands, and a lot of them were like real like crappy like metal bands, or just my friend playing
trashy kind of.
Or my friend playing keyboard and me playing drum set, and after a while, like it just became like I just realized like how much of a logistical nightmare it is to like organize a band. Like,
it is.
Get 5 people together, split money up 5 ways. Divide the creativity between 5 people.
Yeah, get them all to agree.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was a total nerd at the time. I was playing video games, and I was like, man, how are they making all this music for video games? And so realized about like electronic production, like a computer, and so I remember downloaded like a few like music creation software on like my DS. And there's like this like WarioWare game where you can make your own games, comics, and music, and so you can make like 1.5 to 2 minute long like music clips with like 4 MIDI tracks and like a drum rack or something like that. Super, super simple. But I would like just sit there and play on it all the time with headphones plugged in. And I was like, It's about like freshman, sophomore year of high school. I'm like, man, maybe I should get something a little more advanced. So I started getting FL Studio, which I'm sure you heard, Fruity Loops.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then played around with that. Wasn't really too serious about it. Just like, I would probably make like half a song a year, you know, like it was just like, I had no idea what I was doing with it. And then once I got into college, I delved into it a little bit more. Started making like beats for rappers and stuff because I was really big into making beats. But nowadays I'm not super into making beats because it's like, it's kind of boring almost because you have to leave so much room for like the vocalist, you know, that like if you add too much stuff, it like upstage them. But and then about a couple of years ago, I started getting really serious into it. And I was like, well, let's just see what happens. So I was working on FL Studio, putting out maybe a few songs for once in a while, put on my SoundCloud. People started listening to it. I don't know how it started. People always ask, how did you start to get popular? I don't know. People started following me, and then like they would start sharing my music. And then I remember like at one point I got like 20 likes on a SoundCloud track, and I was like, oh my goodness, Mama made it, you know, like. But just kept working on that. I don't know. Started, thinking 2 years ago. Still making beats. Was probably at about 1,000 followers, maybe 500, something like that. And then, just kept working. And then I was like, I kind of grew out of like the whole like making stuff for rappers kind of stuff because for one, there's not really that many good rappers on SoundCloud. There's a ton, but
yeah,
I don't know. Rap music just isn't as like entertaining to me anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because it's a lot of the same. Everyone's trying to like just buy each other's style and stuff. So started to grow out of that. I really got into like dance music because like I would go to like music festivals and I'd always find myself at the dance music stages because it was super exciting. It was like so much more of an experience I felt like than like a rap concert. Because I would go to like, I would go see like Kendrick Lamar or something, but I would go to like a local rap show and be like,
oh
so
yeah,
bad,
I bet it was horrible. Yeah,
so bad.
It's like local punk shows.
Yeah.
Like on the other end of the spectrum. I grew up playing at like a lot of VFW halls, in like fucking basements, and it was always just a bunch of fucking dudes. That's all it was, at least at those shows. 'Cause it was all like emo and hardcore.
Right.
So like the 4 girls that were there, their boyfriends were in bands.
Right.
And it was just a horrible. I get it. What were these rap shows like that you went to?
Oh man, it was just like it was just funny because there'd be like 20, 25 people in the crowd, and they would be on stage just like getting it. Like I'm pretty sure at one point, one of the shows I went to, it was like a collective, I guess, of rappers, and it was like. There's like literally 15 of them up on the stage, just like jumping around, screaming. To the
15 rappers on the stage.
Yeah, like it was like their collective or something. They're just like up there, and we're just like, okay.
How many people were in the audience?
Oh, like 20, 25. I'm saying it was like 50-50 on stage and off stage. It was funny. It was entertaining. It wasn't something I would probably listen to for, home listening or anything, but
for enjoyment.
Yeah. But it was a spectacle for sure, and I was like, I can make money off of selling beats to rappers, but it's not really what I want to do. I like working with vocalists, I like working with singers, and maybe have a rapper put a verse in or something. But
sure, yeah.
A lot of times, rappers on SoundCloud don't even want to buy beats nowadays, anyways, because they can just find someone else that'll make something exactly the same for free.
Yeah.
Or they'll just rip it off of SoundCloud.
Yeah, they'll just steal it from someone. So you kind of mentioned that you always went to the dance music stages at festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you notice about that experience that drew you into it?
I just felt like I had a lot more energy, I felt like. I don't know. When I go to a show, I want to be a part of an experience. And if you go to a rap show and you don't know the words, it's exciting, but it's not like, I don't know. I would like, maybe I'm just a peasant or something, but I like the big rappers. I don't know. The ones that are coming up, I like maybe a few, but it's just not something I go to watch very often.
Yeah. It's a different experience.
Yeah, I'll throw like a few rap songs into like a set when I'm doing like a DJ set, but I don't know, I'm just not that into it anymore. But I like the dance music sets because me being a drummer and the kind of music I listen to a lot of trap music, a lot of future-based music. It's all very percussion-oriented.
Yep.
And so I started listening to that, and I was like, well, I think I could do pretty good making that kind of music.
That's what I kind of noticed about your music when I was listening to it on SoundCloud. It's very percussion heavy.
Right. So I was like, well, I don't know a ton about theory or making music. I mean, I guess I know a little more now, but I can definitely use the percussion side to carry me further. So doing that a lot, and I used to make a lot more like kind of ambient electronic music, which was kind of cool, but I want to try to get some sort of like in between, like between like crazy hyped up dance music and like the chill ambient music. I'm trying to hit in the middle somewhere, which is really tough because people. That's how I got my following, was making all this kind of ambient, wavy kind of trap music. But I really want to do like this really hyped up stuff, so I can't like.
It's like the two extremes.
Yeah, I can't do a complete 180 and drop this like festival banger. People be like, "Oh, what the hell? You sold out," you know, and I can't like. I wouldn't feel comfortable dropping like a super ambient song because that's just not what I listen to anymore. I might make just short clips that I'll put in my shows or something, you know, but if it doesn't have a vocalist, it's just not very engaging, I don't think. You know what I mean? It's like something to listen to, like, with that kind of music, I just don't listen to it that much anymore. So when I put on that kind of like wavy kind of trap music, it's getting big, but it's mainly getting big over in like Europe, which is not where I'm at, so.
Yeah.
And like.
Not yet.
True. But that kind of music is not something I want to go to a show and watch, really, you know what I mean? And most money that's made nowadays is money made at shows. So,
yeah, that's very true.
So if I can get some sort of in-between, that'd be awesome, because right now I've been making everything on like the dance music kind of spectrum, and then this week I've been going back and kind of doing ambient stuff, so if I can hit it in between, it'd be perfect, but it's always tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
Part of the grind, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is, because it's like what I found with songwriting, you can try and do a certain thing, and for me, if I'm trying to do something and like thinking about it too much and I can't get it done, it's when I finally just sit down and I don't have anything in my head and it just comes out.
Right.
Because I've been trying all this shit and putting in the time, and I have all these new skills that I can finally apply.
Exactly. Like, dang, I forgot what I was gonna say. But I'm the exact same way. I'm always working on music, whether I'm inspired or not. I think inspiration is really fleeting and unreliable, and that if you only work when you're inspired, you're going to be completely lost. Because, like you said,
you're going to be poor and trying to do this forever.
Right, because if you only make music when you have a really great idea, you're not going to know how to really make it. You're not going to be able to take that idea, that song in your head, and put it into a medium, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a guitarist only picking up a guitar when he has a song in his head, you know? You still don't know how to play guitar.
Yeah, you have to put in the time, the effort, and the energy that it takes to do it. You know, like the Muse. I feel like the greatest albums in history were recorded when bands like came off the road, went into the studio. They sounded hot. You know, they've been playing with each other, all of that, or they're playing like Motown. Famously, they were playing with each other like every night of the week, just out at jazz gigs. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why the music is so real, because those guys played together all the fucking time.
Yeah, that's cool. And that reminds me, I just finished up an internship over at Fame Studios over in Muscle Shoals, and
that's badass.
Very similar to Motown with the soul R&B kind of music.
Mm-hmm. The Swampers, right?
Yeah. And they still come by and play.
Really?
Records, yeah. Not all of them, but probably a good 4 or 5 of them that still come by, and you can just hire them on for a session. And they've been playing for literally decades. So
what was that experience like of working?
It was cool. You know, the cool thing about studio is that, you know, especially at Fame, it's not restricted to R&B, soul music anymore. It's all over the place. Because music studios get famous for something, you know, but they still got to keep the doors open, you know, so they're taking to anybody. And so it's really interesting to hear all the different kind of music that's come through. When I was interning there, we had like a reggae band. It was really just like this one guy and this percussionist he brought with him, just doing some overdubs on some tracks. And then we had Because Filipino classical, it's a Filipino guy playing violin, playing some classical music, and like he was like a professor, super cool guy. And then I guess it was another professor that was with him that was playing piano with it. And then we had, I don't know if you're a Third Day, but they're a really big Christian band. I had never heard of them, but they're like huge, like Mercy Me level now, just because they've been sticking with it. Then we had Greg Allman from the Allman Brothers come by and record. And then we had several like R&B singers that just came in, wanted the rhythm section, and just record some tracks with them. So it's really all over the place. I had like a hard rock group at one point. So when you listen to that kind of music for like 12 to 14 hours on end, you learn to develop appreciation for pretty much any genre.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of my favorite things I learned was how to just appreciate any kind of music. It made me respect it a lot too, and it taught me the grind too. Because I remember one day we went in at 8 o'clock in the morning and left at 4 o'clock a.m. the next day.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. Ugh.
Was it one session?
Oh yeah, one session. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
It was fun though, and you learn to suck it up, you know.
What kind of music was it?
It was that reggae group. It was bad. There was this one guy, the percussionist. It took him a while to get a couple of these parts down, but
Really?
yeah, it took like 3 hours to do like one song. And it was like 3 notes, but you learn to appreciate it. But nah, it wasn't really that bad. But you do learn to kind of conserve your energy and just like work through it, get over it, you know. Because I remember the first few days I started interning, and we would go to like 11 o'clock, you know. I was just being a little bitch about it, you know. I was like,
Really?
oh my gosh, I've been here for hours, and they're like, dude, you'll get used to it. Don't worry. I'm like, okay. I mean, at the time, I was like, whatever, this sucks. I'll never get used to this. And then it's like 4 a.m. I'm like, all right, guess we're done for the day. You know? All right.
Did you have to get up and go back in at 8 a.m.?
9 o'clock the next morning.
That's beautiful.
Oh yeah. So definitely learn to appreciate the grind. Also learn a lot about microphones, miking techniques and stuff. So it's I think that is the most important part, is knowing where the mics go, what mics to use, and how to place them rather than how to work Pro Tools. I didn't really learn a lot on how to work Pro Tools, but it works like any other DAW, honestly. So
Do they still do tape there?
they do, not very often, because like honestly, I personally don't get the appeal of tape anymore. Like it costs tons of money, hundreds of dollars for a real tape, you know, and you gotta, tape lasts for like 16, 17 minutes for one reel, and you gotta replace it, you know. And all the times we were cutting the tape, we were cutting the Pro Tools at the same time. So I don't know, tape's kind of silly to me because it's just so expensive, and it's such a pain because we have to use this like tape module instead of Pro Tools to like record to it and stuff. It's like, it's really that worth it to get that analog sound, you know? But I'm a digital guy, so
Yeah.
whenever I saw analog gear, I was like, I mean, there's plugins.
It's like I feel I'm definitely more towards the analog, but I think there's a way to blend the two.
Yeah.
Like to make them both kind of live in harmony is where that sweet spot is for my ear. Like I really like Mark Ronson a lot because he does a lot of his stuff, I think, to tape. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he uses a lot of modern sounds too. The same thing with like the Black Keys and shit like that. Is a lot of those bands, I think they still do tape. At least it sounds like it. But they also, like the Black Keys, they have that hip hop drum sound where it makes it super present in the mix. So it's like blending those two, the world of technology and the world of analog, and kind of making them go together. And that's what I'm interested in, is like making something old new through the eyes of the future.
Makes sense. It's just that when we put it through all our analog outboard gear and put it through the console, the audio through the console, it already has that analog sound. So like when you put it to tape too, I just think it's overkill.
Really? Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I've
That's
never
just
I've
me.
never been a part of that process.
I just think tape is kind of a hassle nowadays
Yeah.
because it's just so expensive and such a pain to
Mhm.
work with. But because like on days that we cut the tape, which is really rare, it's usually only the big groups that want to cut the tape, like Greg Allman and Third Day, they cut the tape. You gotta like clean it with like Q-tips, and you gotta.
Were you the guy cleaning it?
And you gotta. Oh no, I wasn't the guy cleaning it.
Yeah.
Luckily. And then you gotta order all this tape. It's like $1,600 for the tape. It's just like super heavy, just like tons of boxes full.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So.
That's expensive. 1,600. How much time do you think that is? Like a box that size?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Is it like a couple hours worth?
Probably, yeah. I mean.
So what if someone goes in? They're like, okay, we have a $500 budget for tape, and we're gonna try and cut an album.
That ain't gonna happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there any way to record over the tape, or once you do it, it's done?
You can record over it, but you would need multiple reels of tape. I mean, tape doesn't. To get like an hour's long worth of music on one reel of tape would be impossible. And an album would be about an hour's long worth of music. I would say 45 to an hour, whatever. But
So it is expensive as fuck.
yeah,
is what
yeah.
you're
there's-
saying.
I think there's no point when you can save hundreds of dollars by recording it digitally, and you can put like tape saturation on it as a plugin if you're trying to save money. I mean, if you have money, buy tape, go for it. But
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the appeal for it. Maybe because I don't have that kind of money, but that's probably the main reason. But
Yeah, I can understand that.
I think analog gear is really cool though.
What kind of analog gear did you like that you saw at the studio?
I really liked the console that we had. It was kind of old. It was like an old Neve.
I bet.
It was a discontinued version, and it had some issues with it that you had to work around. Like there was no mic lines at the top, which is basically if you wanted to take something, if you wanted to have a microphone go through a different like preamp, for it to be heard, you would have the setup at the top that you could just unplug and then plug it into your like the cable from the gear or whatever. You could plug into that and it'd be super easy. Well, you can't do this on this one because there's not that. So what you do is you have to go around to the back of the console and like take it out from like the mixer input or whatever.
Mhm.
You have to literally take it out of the console and then plug it in, put it to the gear that you want to use and bring it all the way back and work
Yeah.
it. So it's a pain.
So were you the guy who had to go back there and like unplug and?
Yeah, I did a couple times, but honestly, I just left it up to them because the console's super old,
Yeah.
and so
Expensive.
yeah,
Expensive. It's like with the tape. I imagine they were like, "Don't worry about the tape. We'll take care of it."
Yeah,
because it's so
exactly,
much. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I imagine that was the soundboard that recorded all the hits.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same one that has always been in the studio?
I'm pretty sure. I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that one's been there for the longest time.
So there was two studios in Muscle Shoals, right? That were kind of
Right. There was Fame, which was I was at, and then there was Muscle Soul Sound. So Fame was like the soul R&B.
that was the original one, right?
Yeah, that was the first one, and then the rhythm section kind of broke off from Fame, and they went and started.
Yeah,
Muscle
they
Soul
started
Sound.
their own thing.
And Muscle Soul Sound was more rock and roll kind of stuff.
That's where the Stones recorded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We actually went in there the other day. It's been closed for a really long time, but every once in a while, if there's people that need, like, people that are associated with Fame, sometimes they'll go in there and rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to open it back up, but I wish I could show you pictures, but I can't. It's really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard they were renovating it, right?
Mhm. Well, it's been closed for a really long time, and so
I know the Black Keys recorded Brothers there.
that's right. They did.
Yeah.
They just they had to bring everything in, basically,
Yeah.
because it was just empty.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was just basically the building and the way the room sound. That's a fucking amazing record. I love Brothers so much.
Yeah, it's a cool place for sure. So it's nice that they're bringing it back to where they can show it off, because too much history there to not show it off. I feel like.
Are they going to be back as a full service recording studio?
Kind of, not really though. I mean, basically it's going to be more of a museum for people to look around in, and if you really want to record there, then you can. But for the most part, it's just going to be a place people can check out and learn about the history.
That's cool.
Kind of like a vanity studio, kind of like Sun Studios, where you go there and you can check it out.
Yeah, Sun's cool. Yeah, I've been there.
Unless you throw down a stack load of cash or you're a big artist, you're not really going to get to record.
Yeah, it's more of like a tourist attraction now.
Right, exactly. And that's the interesting thing about Fame is that it's a tourist attraction and still a fully functioning recording studio. So sometimes it's hard to like juggle that stuff, you know, because we have touring times at 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But people are coming in all the time. They're like, "Oh, can I come check out the studio? Can I come check out the studio?" It's like I wish you could, but we're trying to cut a record.
Yeah, we're trying to make money here.
So it's a tough game to play, like balancing those two.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have like a very varied background because you started off kind of playing drums and then moved into like electronic music, and then you have like this famous fucking studio, like one of the most famous in the world for a particular sound.
Right.
So it sounds like you really have gotten like a lot of good, like down in the trenches experience.
Right. Well, you know, I feel like in the music industry, you have to have a lot of tools in your belt to succeed. So
Yeah. Utility belt.
Exactly. Just trying to get as much experience wherever I can, you know. And although recording studio and producing electronic music are pretty separate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really recording too much aside from maybe vocals every once in a while.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of stuff that can coincide with each other. And not only do I learn about engineering and miking and stuff like that, and how consoles work at Fame, I also learned how to deal with people in the music industry, you know. I was able to, before I started doing like my 4-credit internship back in the studio, I like sat up front all the time dealing with tourists. And so I learned how to be able to make a conversation with anybody that walked in, you know. I was able to be able to know, I knew the etiquette of a studio. I would always be, since I was an intern, I was in the control room all the time, I would always be talking to the managers, producers, record label executives, stuff like that. And so I think I learned a ton. Like back when I was doing it, there'd be some days I was like, man, am I really learning anything here? But now after it, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, man, I learned a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was such a broad internship that covered so many things. I don't think I could have gotten that at any other internship, because most internships you're going to be filling coffee and running errands, which I did, of course, but there's a lot of stuff that's kind of beneath the surface that you learn too.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole purpose of the internship.
Right.
I think it's so crucial to have an internship, and you're lucky if you get a good one. I've had a few, and they've always been very impactful on what I'm doing now.
Right.
Because you just learn like the mechanics of every day. It's like when you first start off, I don't know, as a kid playing baseball, like learning how to catch.
Right.
Learning how to throw the right way. Learning when to swing at a pitch and when to not swing at a pitch.
Right, and I think that especially when you're learning about the music industry in like college, it's a lot like reading a manual on how to drive a car. You know, unless you actually get behind a car and drive it, you're not really going to know how it works. And so you can sit in a classroom all day and be a bookworm about it, but you're going to get an idea of it a little bit, but until you actually immerse yourself in that scene, you're really not going to have the best
it's like getting laid for the first time.
right, exactly. You don't know until you
know, yeah.
Exactly,
So, you said you kind of learned how to, like the people-facing side of the music industry. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about what exactly you learned or how you applied it to your life now?
Well, I think that in addition to having good skills, you have to be a good hang, too. Because you might get hired on for your experience somewhere, but if you're not a cool person to be around, if you're not a good hang, then you're probably not going to stay around there not very often.
They're not going to give you a call back.
They're not going to, and they're not going to be willing to help you out. You know what I mean?
Did you see that happen while you were there?
Oh, I mean, like the people that weren't a good hang?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, when you were nice to people in the studio and you were like, when everyone got along, it went so much better. Like, everyone loved it, and then there would be like, I remember there was this camera guy. Camera guys always like mess things up over there for some reason. Maybe it was just when I was there, but like half the camera guys that were there just didn't get it. You know what I mean? because it's like really long hours in the studio. They get really irate, and it's like, I'm just trying to do this thing, man.
It takes time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, especially a studio, like if you don't put off good vibes, like it spreads really.
Oh yeah.
Even when there's plexiglass and 3 layers of stuff between a singer and the vocal booth or in the vocal booth in a control room, you can just tell if the engineers are just like sitting there like with their hands in their in their face like this, They can tell like even though they're not doing that because they don't like it or it's painful for them to hear. They're just tired.
Yeah.
The singer's gonna still they can't hear what they're saying, so they're just
because musicians, creative types, very sensitive.
Right, and so they see that and they're just not feeling it, huh? Like they're gonna start second guessing themselves.
Yeah. And that's when the session goes down.
Right, and it gets exponential when it does that. Because like even when we stayed up till 4 a.m. recording this guy, we were still just like.
Encouraging him.
Yeah, encouraging him, trying to groove with it. So, because we knew if we were just like, oh goodness, just like falling asleep in our chairs, then it wouldn't have been as inspiring. We probably would have taken even longer. So, definitely a cool thing to learn. It's definitely subtle things, but it goes a long way, I think.
So, on the topic of musicians and learning how to work with them, what did you, in addition to that, what else did you learn from working with musicians? Like, did you learn did they coach you up on how to give someone feedback if they're not getting a part done right or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot of that from watching producers work. Mm-hmm. Like record producers. Like when I think producer, I think like working on Ableton at your computer or something, but record producer in the studio is a little bit different because they're kind of the people that are hyping them up, Mm-hmm. They organized all this stuff. And so I saw a bunch of different producers. Some of them weren't that great. Some of them were really great. And so you could pick up on that kind of stuff. Like there's this one producer who recorded like this kind of southern rock, soul kind of album. It was really awesome. And he was this guy it was interesting because this guy was from Arkansas. His name was Arkansas Dave. But his manager and his producer were both from England. And they said that like a soul, southern rock kind of stuff, it sells like crazy. It sells records like crazy over in Europe. So they hopped on it. And the producer was freaking awesome. It was crazy. Like he would be or just how he acted with them. Like he would be in the recording room, like jamming along with them, mm-hmm. just like telling them like he knew a lot about music too, so he was able to kind of guide them and stuff. And he would sing along with them. He would pick up a guitar and kind of play something a little differently and show them something. It was really awesome. And then I saw a lot of producers that are just kind of like sitting back in the chair, pressing the talk back. Yeah, just do that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like no energy.
Right.
They're more businessmen than an artist. Like I think in a good way, a good producer is someone who is a coach. They're a great cheerleader. They're someone who brings together all the musicians, organizes the session, brings a realism to the session. You know, if an artist isn't getting it done or they're not going in the right direction, they kind of pull back the reins and be like, hey, maybe check out, instead of doing 2 verses there, go 1 verse or drop the bass out here, add this, add that.
Right.
So I think a good producer is someone who's almost like all of the above in the studio.
Right. And there's some that are definitely more inclined in other aspects than others, but I think you have to have a good, rounded knowledge of all of it and know how to deal with people well. Because I remember on that session I was talking about, like, the singer was getting really down because he just couldn't get these words to the song, and so, like, he's like, all right, we'll just come in the next day and do it. And, like, we cut out all the lights in the studio. We had, like, candle lit and stuff. We had, like carpets laid on the ground, like pretty told all the stuff he wanted to happen.
It's very Spinal Tap.
Yeah. And so just had the lights real dim, and he was just like coaching him through all the stuff. And so it was really cool how producers are able to kind of inspire like the best out of people.
Yeah.
So I think I think I learned a lot from that on how to deal with people and musicians. It's just by watching good producers work, because even, like, we weren't even the musicians, and we felt, like, inspired by this guy. He was so good, you know?
Yeah.
So.
That's cool, man. Yeah, it sounds like that was a really valuable experience. Probably when you're back on it for the rest of your life, you're always gonna pinpoint at that as like, wow, I learned a lot of shit there.
right, exactly. It was super cool, man.
That's cool. Yeah. I want to go check out that studio sometime. I watched a documentary about it on Netflix, and I just thought it was cool as fuck.
Right.
So it's kind of funny that you're also doing the electronic music stuff because they're so the opposite of each other.
Right.
But it makes sense. Like even your music, when I was listening to it, I thought it sounds and feels like there's a little something extra in it besides just the standard. You know, like there's a lot of, I think, DJs, producers, electronic artists out there who do something that's just kind of cookie cutter in some ways.
There's a lot of that.
But there seems to be a real spirit to what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks.
So, when it comes to shows, are you playing shows weekly? Were you playing shows weekly? How does that work?
Well, I'm trying to play shows weekly, but since I just moved, I'm still in the process of organizing it. I got one later this month. Yeah, August 27th? Yeah, August 27th. Like downtown. Just like a bunch of DJs playing sets. And then I'm trying to get in at, Tempt over Murfreesboro?
No, is that a club?
Yeah, it's a club over there. I'm trying to get like a residency there, or at least try to open up for some of the acts that are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's tough because, I guess it's a little easier than in Huntsville or Florence or in Alabama, but, Nashville's not an electronic music town. It's country, or singer-songwriter, Americana kind of stuff. But from the sheer amount of people that are here,
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's growing really fast.
Yeah.
I've noticed. So, and electronic music's only getting bigger and bigger. So
I'll have to hook you up with my friend Tim. He goes by like the artist name Rika Vita. He does like electronic music, but there's something about it still kind of rooted in like playing, with instruments and shit like that. But I know he's interested in a lot of those shows and everything like that, and he's invited me out to like an electronic show before.
Okay, cool.
So there are places here, so I'm definitely going to get you
sure.
in touch with them.
Cool. Okay.
So whenever you're playing these shows, or when you've played a show in the past, what's like the craziest thing that you've seen, like when you're just sitting in the booth and like watching the audience?
I'm trying to think. The last large show I played was over in Huntsville. It was about 250 people. It wasn't huge, but it's still
that's
pretty
a
decent.
pretty good size.
It was a really cool venue too, man. The people that like put it on, they do like kind of like work for hire, like parties kind of stuff, like fraternity parties, weddings, all that stuff. So they had a ton of gear, and they're all big like dance music fans. So they had this place like super cool setup. If you saw my profile picture on Facebook, that's
yeah.
I'm trying to think. It was perfect how it was set up because the guy before me was doing like a drum and bass set. I don't know if you've heard much drum and bass music before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of it, honestly. I could tell the crowd wasn't really feeling it either, just because it's like at 10 o'clock at night, everyone's still getting there.
Yeah, and it's heavy right away. Yeah.
It's just not very. I don't think drum and bass is too accessible to like the general listener of electronic music. I feel like it's a little more kind of niche, especially now. I don't think drum and bass is as big as it used to be. Anyways, he played a set, and then right after him and before me was like the singer, real cute girl singing the song. She like got on like in front of like the projector on the stage and stuff, and got everybody to come up to the front. I was like, yes, keep them right there. Sings her song, and then I just go straight to my set. So everyone in the venue was like already right up front and stayed there. I was like, awesome. It worked out perfect.
That's cool.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like was just like one of the guys was like super hyped up and just kept yelling stuff in the microphone. I'm like, let me just play my music. That's one of my pet peeves about DJ sets is that like when someone stays on the microphone for way too long.
Yeah.
It's like, they can't hear the music if you're on the microphone.
Yeah, which is the whole reason why they're there.
Right. Which I don't mind it sometimes, but he didn't do it a lot, but sometimes I'm just like, all right, you're making me look like a douchebag now, you know?
It kills the vibe. Was it another DJ?
I think it was. It was a guy like DJ there before. I don't have anything against it really, but it was like, because I think he talked more on the microphone than I did. I was like,
Yeah.
for real? It ain't that big of a deal though. It ain't that deep.
So everybody was just on drugs, dancing, getting drunk.
Yeah,
having a good time.
probably drunk more than anything. So it's BYOB.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. So, do you have like SoundCloud? Can you plug all your stuff? That way, people know where to find you at.
Mm-hmm. And then I feel like I try to keep like, I've been really trying to enforce like my brand a lot because I think that's really important when it comes to music is to have a memorable brand. So I have like my logo that I have like hats with it. It's very distinct. It corresponds to an emoji. So I try to make all that stuff as accessible as possible. And the coolest thing about my name, which I didn't even realize when I made it, I used to think my name was really stupid, 26carrat. And I realized when I type into Google, all that shows up is my music and like a bunch of Singaporean jewelers. So
That's cool.
it works. So, because I have a friend, and his stage name is Graves. He's really popular. He's probably going to, I would suggest you look him up. He's going to be probably the biggest name in electronic music within the coming year. He's already gotten freaking huge in the past year. So, but his name's Graves, and you type in Graves, Garves, you know, Graves.
Yeah.
And so many things pop up.
Yeah, Shaky
There's also-
Graves. That's what I think of.
And there's another one. There's another person named also does the same kind of music named Graves, but with a Z. So it's like, oh man. So I'm really glad that my name is kind of unique in that sense because I think that I see a lot of electronic musicians that have very similar names, and I feel like when you have like a name that's extremely similar, or an aesthetic or a style that's really similar to everyone else, that it just kind of gets lost, you know.
Yeah, you get lost in the shuffle because there's a lot out there.
Mm-hmm.
So where can people find you at?
I can find me at 26carratmusic.com, SoundCloud, just type in 26carrat, no spaces. Facebook, 26carrat music, Twitter, 26carrat music, Instagram, 26carrat music. That's it.
Hustle, hustle, grind, grind. Dude, I appreciate you you coming over and doing the podcast with me today.
For sure.
I will be putting this up and you'll be able to share it and tell your friends and all that.
Dope.
So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, no problem.
Bye.